Surface preparation is key for proper adhesion of the overlay material. Here I am washing off the mold, mildew, and moss and whatever other materials are on my concrete. Next up, I inspected the patio for any loose material. Here's a bunch of loose pieces that were on the back side of the patio near the wall of the house. Took those out, wire brushing it up, cleaning up that area now. Once it's all brushed out, we'll take a blower, blow out all the loose debris. I picked up an inexpensive pump sprayer at the local Dollar General. Gonna need to be able to keep the concrete moist as I'm patching. This is approximately 7 o'clock at night. The sun has been off this patio for about 5 hours now, but it's still warm and it was still sucking up the moisture big time. I got all the materials for the project from the same concrete product supplier. This one happened to be Paradise Concrete Solutions in Bronx, Pennsylvania. I wanted to make sure all the products were compatible with each other. Here I'm going ahead and filling in these hairline cracks. I don't think I had to fill these in before I put the overlay on, but I just wanted to make sure. So I went ahead and forced some of this patch into those cracks. They were all clean before I did this. These cracks have been here for a number of years. They've never widened, so I was pretty confident that I didn't have to fill them in. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. Here I'm feathering the edges a little bit. I'm knocking off the high spots before it sets up. It's easier to clean this up as it's setting up rather than after it's set up. It's a lot easier to work with. A crack had opened up around the entire perimeter of the patio, between the patio and the house. It was like 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm making a thinner mix here, and I'm going to flow that into that crack. Again, this crack was a little bit wider than the cracks that were in the surface of the patio. So I'm going to head and fill them in with the patch. This is the next morning. I had a few minutes, so I went ahead and got a orbital sander using some 40 grit sandpaper here, And I'm going to go ahead and knock off the high spots, clean up some of the drips that I made. And this is really quick and easy with the sander. We figured the first coat of the overlay was going to take about 1.5 50-pound bags of the SureCrete mix. So here I am measuring out 25 pounds of the overlay mix, just so that I could mix the same color. So I had the right ratios. The manufacturer recommends 4 to 6 quarts of water per 50-pound bag. We use 4.5 quarts. We've never done this before. We weren't sure about the exact amount of water. Here I am putting in the colorant into the water. Yeah, put the colorant in the water, mix it together thoroughly first, then put your mix into that, then mix that. That way you're going to be sure that you have consistent coloring throughout. Add your overlay mix slowly into the water. Mix it as you go. Don't just go ahead and dump the entire bag in. You're going to have a mess. It's going to be hard to mix. Okay, here's all 50 pounds of mix into the bucket. I'm scraping the sides with a silicone scraper here, trying to get all the dry material incorporated. Here we are spraying the surface of the patio. We want to make sure this is wet a little bit before we go ahead and make our first pour. Even being out of the sun for 5 hours, this was still absorbing that moisture quickly. Well, there it is, the first pour. In retrospect, I wish we would have poured a lot more on the first time. It just didn't seem like it was enough. I was a little scared at this point. Didn't really want to mess this up. Just like you would if you were washing windows with a squeegee. Go ahead and angle your squeegee so that you're not leaving lines. Well, the first coat is on. It's cured for about 25 minutes. It's still a little bit damp. Perfect time to go ahead and scrape off any high spots. You don't want to get on this too quickly, but you don't want to scrape off after it's totally cured either. It's just not going to work. Blowing off some of that dust. And this pretty much takes us to our end of our first evening of actually putting the overlay on. It's the next evening now. I had to go buy 2 more bags of overlay. It actually took 3 bags on the first coat. The surface was really rough. There was a lot of places to fill in. So we really severely underestimated how much overlay we needed. So I went and grabbed 2 more bags. We grabbed the coloring for it. I'm even putting a little extra coloring in each one because we didn't like how light it looked. We decided to go ahead and make our second coat thinner. So we actually used 6 quarts of water per 50-pound bag. We're right at the upper limit. And I'm kind of glad we did it. So much easier to work when it's thinner. Have somebody to help you keep the surface moist. At this point, I'm wishing maybe my squeegee was a little bit wider, but you can see how much easier this is to work when it's in a thinner consistency. I'm getting to the end and I've finally found the hang of this. So the learning curve isn't that great. It just takes a little practice. And the first coat is kind of forgiving. The second coat's going to cover up any messes you make. The second coat is on. Looks a little splotchy because it's not curing at the same rate. Some spots are a little thicker than others. But I'm pretty darn happy the way this has turned out. The second coat has really smoothed things out. Another SureCrete product I'm using is this HS300 gloss sealer. I'm putting the sealer on here a day and a half after the final coat of my overlay. And it's about 7:30 in the morning here. It's cloudy and it's rather cool. There is no sun on the patio. I'm going to cut in around the edges before I use the roller. The fumes of this product are really potent. Make sure you have good ventilation when you're using it. Notice the spots that I've covered already. It's really darkening the color. So this is the color that this was actually supposed to be in the mix. So when you look at the color chips of this product, you say, oh, I want that. That's a nice light gray. You put it on and it's kind of white. But the sealer actually darkens it. I don't know if they say that on the color chips or not, that it's a sealed color. But you can see it's darkening here if you watch. This actually stays that dark. Everything's cut in now. I'm ready to go ahead and roll on the rest of this material. When you get your rollers, make sure they're solvent resistant. If not, they may fall apart. So you can see this one's good for enamels, urethanes, and epoxies. So I'm pretty certain that it's solvent resistant. This is not your run-of-the-mill concrete sealer that you might buy at Walmart or Home Depot. This stuff is thick, and when it's drying, it's really sticky. At this point, I'm looking at this thing and, oh, this is going to be all blotchy looking. But it's amazing how this stuff actually all blends together. Be careful when you're back rolling. This stuff does dry quickly, and you end up pulling and threading out like long strings of sticky material. So be careful when you're back rolling. Just be aware that it does get sticky, and you may end up making your surface a little rougher than you wanted. Here, the first coat is done, and I'm going to let this dry and cure overnight, and we'll come back and hit this the next day with the second coat. Here we are the next day. The second coat is on. You can see the colors have blended pretty well together. Let's go up onto the main patio. Looks pretty good. You see a few dark spots because I stepped in some of the finish and it got stuck to my shoes and it left a little black marks. But I'm not worried too much about that. I think this looks a heck of a lot better than it did when it started. The total cost for this 250 square foot patio and walkway was just around $500.
Hey, thanks for coming along on the video. I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.